Ho. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and I am alongside here with me is my co-host, Mike Rasinski, and also joining us once again, our lovely friend, Heather, the hostess with the mostest, the podcast queen, I think. I think you're going to take the title here.
I don't know. I've done a lot of them this week, so I'm gonna end it on the highest note possible, though, doing this one.
All right, I appreciate that. And folks, thank you very much for tuning in this evening. Going nuCLEar is part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of the Fans First Sports Network. And if you want to take a look and find a lot of really great programming over on Fans First, go to fansfirstsports.com. There's a ton of resources there. There's articles. You can get to the various podcasts for the Browns, like Under the Fanatical Elves, and any other team you might want to follow there. So really happy to be a part of the Fanatical Elves and Fans First Sports. So guys, how are we hanging in there this evening? We're going to lead off with the Cavs. We are going to let everybody know that, that's what we're here for. We're not here for any clown shows. We're going to let them know. What do you think, guys?
Yes, they're giving us hope. The Cavs are giving us hope, and they do every year, but this year it just feels different.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a little disappointed that Heather's the only one wearing Cavs gear between the three of us. I don't know what we're doing wrong, Ethan.
To represent, I had to go old school too.
That's great. No, I wish we were just talking about we need to get more Cavs gear because they're a lot more exciting than the Browns gear we're wearing right now. But super excited for the game this evening. Glad we're taping this at 6:30, so we will be finishing just in time to put on the game.
Yeah, it is set to be a phenomenal matchup between the best in the East and the best in the West. And if it's anything like what we saw in Cleveland, we're in for a treat tonight. They flex this game over to TNT. And now, on a positive side, I guess, as a Cavs fan, the Thunder are going to be without Isaiah Hartenstein. They still don't have Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
And the Cavs kind of imposed their will a little bit in the prior matchup in Cleveland, and they've got the size advantage once again. So I guess what are the initial thoughts about the way the Cavs have been playing? They had a rough one against the Pacers a week ago, whenever that was. They lose at home for only the second time all season, but they got the second half of the home and home, and they took care of business on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think about just the way the Cavs played against the Pacers, the way they've lost 2 games to the Hawks, a game to the Pacers? Is it a styles make fight thing?
I think it's a timing thing too. I mean, you come off some tough stretches, you come off some emotional wins, and I just think that sometimes it's just a timing thing, and sometimes you're just not on it. And they weren't on it on it was Sunday against the Pacers. They just weren't on. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens. So I'd rather see these slumps last like a game than have them in the past, 50 game losing streaks. So I think it was just one of those things. Not that the Pacers are not bad. The Pacers are a good team. So it's okay. It's okay to struggle sometimes against those better teams. Our bigs are playing out of their minds right now. So yeah, I can't be too mad about a loss like that.
Right, exactly. What about you, Mike? What did you think of the we got the big win over the Thunder, and then we fall flat against, we had a real struggle the next game against the Raptors, although the Raptors went ahead and beat the Celtics last night. So that's real nice. Very nice over there. And we bounced back against the Pacers on Tuesday.
Yeah, it did. It seemed like the trap game that everybody calls it. You come off the emotional high of the win, that barely survived the Raptors, and then this game finally caught up to them. And it was a competitive game until that third quarter. It's not like they came out flat. They just came out flat after halftime. But then it was really encouraging to see them come back 2 days later and actually beat them on the road. So you could see that, they made adjustments. Mitchell seemed like he was back to his old self. Garland still had a good game. It seemed like the all-around team that we were used to seeing. This game obviously tonight is going to be exciting, but not even after this game. After this, they're going to go play at Minnesota, at Houston. They've got Houston at home. So they've got a tough stretch coming up. So it'll be interesting to see if they can stay up for all of these games. They had that 4-game Western swing, earlier this month, and they swept all 4 of those games. And you could tell they were up for those games too. I think they won them all by double digits. So I'll be interested to see if they can keep that going against this next, tough stretch really to end January.
Yeah, they did. I was just looking at their schedule. They do have a bit of a tougher one. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because the Cavs are the tough team, right? Anybody that's playing the Cavs, that's the tough game. But sometimes I think you also play to the level of your opponents. So,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the thing was in the game against the Pacers on Sunday, the Cavs, as you said, they're up by 13 at halftime. They're playing well, and they came out, and this wasn't the first time that they had come out in a third quarter and been kind of flat. And the Pacers took it to them. They turned up the defensive intensity. They put on a full court press, and they did it again on Tuesday. But, of course, the Cavs were a little bit better ready for that and were able to handle that. Who does full court pressure anymore? I thought that was like left at the high school level, maybe college at that. You just don't see it very often in the pros, and it seemed to catch the Cavs
off guard.
Yeah. And they're shooting, and they were missing shots too, to be quite honest.
That's the problem. Yeah. I think it would have been okay, but I think Donovan only had like 2 or 4 points or something like well into the second quarter. He struggled. He struggled. He just had one of his off days. Garland wasn't exactly shooting lights out. And I think it was Sunday. I think it was the game Sunday. I saw my guy Isaac take a corner 3, and I'm like, I'm like, man, please don't do that. I love him, but like, please stop with the threes. No, Isaac. So
it was a bad night all around. It was a bad night, all around. And now they bounce back though.
Yes, they do.
They really do.
Do you think that's the difference this year than it was last year? We're not having, multiple game skids. We're having, one game and it's that short term. They have serious short term memory, and they go into the next game like that last game didn't even happen. And even with the blowout wins, even on their winning streaks, they go in like a fresh new team. So it's nice to see.
Is that Atkinson, do you think? Is that his addition, like his mentality bringing it? Okay.
I do. And I think that he's making better leaders on the bench. Mm-hmm. I would never tweet about that. I would never.
Mike from the UK staying up late with us here, but I knew he was going to be up for the game anyways. We always appreciate everybody tuning in and chiming in along here. And so hopefully we will have Ty Jerome back tonight. I have not seen Mike or Heather. If you have, I was looking just before we came on to see if there was word he was day to day with an illness. Whatever it is, don't give it to your teammates. But when you're ready, get back. Did you guys realize that Ty Jerome played AAU ball back when he was, I think they said, was it an 8th grade or was it 8 years old? I think it might have been 8 years old, was playing AAU ball with Donovan.
Yeah, I did. I didn't know that until this year. But they did. They talked about it, or someone was talking about it, and I'm like, that's kind of cute.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
According to ESPN, a game time decision.
That's what I was just looking up too. Yeah, he's still a game time decision. Honestly, if he had whatever is going around, I don't blame him. It was miserable.
I did see before they announced Hartenstein was out, the ESPN was predicting Oklahoma City had a 60% chance to win. But now that he's out, the Cavs have a 50.9% chance to win. So right up a 50-50 toss-up.
Yeah, and actually, I think they were talking about it earlier, and I don't know which gambling site they were talking about, but the line went from – it actually went further in favor of OKC even after Hartenstein was ruled out. You know what?
Minus 2.5 for Oklahoma City now.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm not sure which thing you're on, but I'm just on ESPN's thing. They put Oklahoma City 1.5. I don't care. Quite frankly, to me, I don't know about you guys. I'm not a big gambling person, but I get tired of talking about the odds and the spread. I don't give a flying rat's patoozie. Just win the game.
Yeah, like I don't care if you cover the spread. People, I do get asked a lot. Oh, should I bet at Ohio State? No, never bet on Ohio State to cover the spread. Like, who cares? If they're winning, they're winning. Like, it doesn't matter. I will never bet straight up. I will put some parlays in, but I'm not betting on game odds. There ain't no way.
So
you can't predict human behavior.
No, not at all. Well, I did want to ask you guys, how important is this game in the grand scheme of things, do you think? You know, if last week seemed pretty important and they came back and won. Is this one just as important, or is it just another game in the 82 game stretch?
I think it's important to the players and I think it's more important to the fans for bragging rights, but I think in the grand scheme of things, this is just another game in that 82 game stretch this early in the season and being in different conferences. Yeah, it's probably a preview of it's maybe a preview of what the finals are going to be, but I think it matters more to the fans for like bragging rights at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Heather, I'm right with you on that one. This is it's not as big as for the team and the overall grand scheme of things when you look at it, when you have an 82 game season. But sure, if you can handle business on the road, Oklahoma City is not an easy place to play. They're 17-2 at home. So they're just as good at home as the Cavs are at home. This is a difficult venue to play in. So I think that if they lose, it's not the end of the world. I actually think that losing the other day against the Pacers was not a bad thing. It gave them some teachable moments, some opportunities to say, hey, look, you need to stop resting on your laurels and you need to get your head straight and get back into things here. Now, I know this is going to be a little bit early. I don't know. Thank you, Big E Bronco. How's it feel knowing you guys pay a quarterback sexually solid? Hey, that's a really good question. I like it.
I thought we were going positive early.
I
thought I was clicking a different one, and I saw. So here's a fun. We're going to get to that in a moment because I want to address the elephant in the room here that we all know about. But we're going to get to the Browns in a bit. So let's continue positively here.
Yes.
The physicality of the Pacers. We're going to see that more often. Do you think that the types of things they have done will start being used as kind of a recipe for other opponents, for the Cavs?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just going to be the nature of trying different things and trying to wear them down, and whatever everybody is doing right now isn't working. Do I think it's sustainable? No. I don't think it's going to work long term. So I think we'll see a lot more of it, but I don't think it's going to be anything that we're not going to be able to adjust to. What
about you?
Yeah, it was interesting seeing it 2 games in a row because we got to play the Pacers 2 times in a row and they kind of came out with the same style. We haven't really seen in terms of teams playing like the full court press and doing those things. We haven't seen teams do that against the Cavs. So maybe we'll see other teams replicate it, but I don't really think other teams go away from what they do as well. So,
right. You're not going to see teams changing their identity, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's a very difficult balance. I think you see coaches, and this is something we might talk about, when we get toward the end of the show or get to the Ohio State topic. We're going to be talking about Ohio State versus Notre Dame and who does what well, because you see teams that have a certain strength. And the question is, are they going to stick with what they do well, or will they alter their game plan, say, hey, you know what? This works against this team. And it's a chess match. It's one of those things that I think for coaches, it's something you think about, or maybe you don't. Maybe as a fan, I'm a moron. I don't know.
No, I think you have the right idea. I think you do have the right idea, but maybe the answer lies more in the middle. Maybe the answer lies more in you stick with what you're good at, but then you also, incidentally, I think what Notre Dame happens to be good at is a good game plan against Ohio State. So I don't see Notre Dame changing their identity, but we'll talk about that. But coaches, maybe maybe then it's in the middle. Maybe they don't fully change their identity, but maybe they sprinkle in a little bit of that physicality, that old school defense.
Right. And now the Cavs won the first matchup, and Mitchell was not good. 11 points. He struggled from the field, and they did it even in spite of that. Mobley and Allen, we talked about it at the Open. They both had double-doubles, and then you had Strus and Jerome, coming in and delivering off the bench. I guess, we saw Taven, he commented, Ty Jerome is the reason for the success. I don't know if I can argue with him. I really don't. He's a calming influence with that herky-jerky style. He and Karis LeVert can put on a real show out there the way they move. I never know what to, expect out of them. I'm like, are they robots? Are they, what's the deal? They're not the smoothest dancers. Or maybe they are.
Well, and you know what? I was just bringing up the box score from that game, and we talked about it after the game last week. The highest plus minus was Isaac Okoro with a plus 12, and he scored 0 points. Which is just interesting. I know we're talking about Ty Jerome. He had a plus 2, by the way. But I just thought that was an interesting stat too about how sometimes we overlook, the intangibles that somebody brings. That's why I love that plus minus stat, by the way.
It's a curious, interesting stat. I hadn't ever really paid that much attention to it, but you get some sort of an idea, a bigger picture of what's going on out there when certain people are on the court. And sometimes it's not box score porn, what they're doing out there, but they're effective.
Yeah, it's the stats that don't show up on the sheets that I love. Those are the things that I like to see. It's the same thing in football. Everybody hypes up like sacks and tackles for loss and stuff. But when I'm seeing a wide receiver blocking for, a running back, that's what really, I like that. That's the stuff that I like. It's the intangibles, and it's the stuff that doesn't show up on the stats.
Right, exactly. So the Cavs, they're 34-5, and they are. The Celtics lost last night. What do we got, Mike? What do we got? 6.5 on the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I think so.
And I guess the question is, the way things are going, barring a losing skid, the Cavs are in control for potentially having the number 1 seed. How long do you keep? Mike, I think you pointed this out, and I saw this too. How far do you push the pedal to the metal? How important is it to get, how many ever wins? If they were, what would you think, Mike? You mentioned this. This is a great question. How important might it be for the Cavs to go for the 70 wins?
So I was thinking about this. I honestly think it's very important because every year somebody wins the championship. Only 2 teams in the history of NBA have ever won 70 games or more. So to have that mark, that puts you in the history books. And, one of the teams that won 70 wins didn't win the championship, but they're still talked about as one of the greatest teams because they were.
I forgot
one of the greatest regular season teams because they blew a 3-1 lead.
Absolutely. We'll celebrate that every day, all day.
Every March 1st, I celebrate Happy 3-1 Day.
Perfect. Love it. That's great. I think it's important to get those 70 wins to put your names in the record books because you never know what's going to happen in the postseason. So I say go for it if they're close by the end of the season.
It's different. It's a different landscape for us this year too, because we can push a little bit harder. Donovan's not leading in minutes in the NBA anymore, and we're able to rotate. We have a better rotation, so we're not wearing these guys out so bad.
No, that's 100% true. I think the way that Atkinson has managed the rotations, we've talked about this probably ad nauseum about the way that he has just dialed things up beautifully in how he's managed all the rotations and thankfully we've been relatively healthy, and let's hope that continues on. The injury bug bit us last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all throughout the season, we couldn't get everybody healthy
early. I think Mobley was hurt early. Like we just never got. And then Garland broke his jaw, and he was never the same. So it was bad last year.
Yeah, there was definitely a bad injury bug there for the Cavs, and then it just went all the way through into the playoffs. So I mean, it was just not exactly the best of breaks, no pun intended. And as you guys pointed out, so Mike, what is the schedule coming up here?
Yeah, so it's a tough one. Just bringing it up, so I have all of them here. I just highlighted in the notes a couple of them, but we have Oklahoma City tonight, then we go at Minnesota versus Phoenix, whatever. At Houston's going to be big. At Philly versus Houston at home, versus Detroit. Then we close out the month at Atlanta and at Miami and versus Atlanta. So 2 teams we've lost to. So it's going to be, and that closes out January. So the rest of January is going to be a really tough stretch. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they can, or how they do against all these teams, especially that those 2 Houston games are going to be, I think, great.
Yeah. Where did Houston come from? I mean,
don't you feel that like there's always that team every year? Like what happened? Where did they come from, or what happened to them?
Yeah, I had no idea. Haven't paid attention. Minnesota, wow, they have fallen. That's looking like they made a very poor decision trading Karl Anthony Towns, because they are nowhere the team that everybody expected with Anthony Edwards and Gobert. I just don't get it.
I read that Anthony Edwards was the leading, like he was the problem why they traded Cat, because he did not like him. They didn't like, or he wanted him off the team, and they said that trade would have never happened had he said no. He had to approve that trade. Now, how true that is, I don't know. It's locker room gossip, but usually those start with a grain of truth.
Right. And then the other thing, Mike, the All-Star break is coming up soon, and that's out in San Francisco at Golden State, right?
It is. Yeah. And I just saw today that all 4 of the core 4 have broken the top 10 in NBA voting, for fan voting at least. This is the last time they'll release it before the final results come out for the starters.
Right. And here's a great one. So the head coaching hire for Cleveland may very well be the best offseason move they could have ever done, including signing of Mitchell. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Because you can argue that Mitchell signed an extension because Atkinson was hired, because that's who he wanted. So that was almost like a double benefit for us. We signed him, and then Mitchell decided to sign that like almost instantaneously. So it worked out twice for us.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I mean, JB is doing a great job in Detroit. He's got them already. They're 21-19. They're right at the 7. They're in the play-in. They're only a half game behind the Pacers to get in that top 6. I mean, that's crazy. The turnaround he's gotten out of the same people. And on the same note, Kenny Atkinson took the same people.
Right. And made better. Yeah. Made better elite. So maybe it was just JB wasn't a bad coach. He just didn't rotate it. I don't think he had good rotations.
I think he's got a high floor but a low ceiling. Like he's going to make any team better, but only to a certain point.
Right. He's only going to take you so far. He's kind of like a James Franklin. He'll get you there, but he won't put you over.
Exactly. Okay. And Mike, am I being too selfish that I'd rather them rest up?
Yes, you're being selfish. I despise Valentine's Day. It's the dumbest holiday to ever holiday. However, it's the NBA All-Star Weekend. So don't ruin this for me.
You're going to have a date on the couch, huh?
That's pizza and the All-Star Weekend. That's what I do for Valentine's Day. So it's so stupid.
I really like that. Now, do you guys, we're all in the same age bracket. How bad has All-Star Weekend gotten?
Oh my God, it's so terrible. It's so terrible.
It is bad. What are they even doing this year? It's like some kind of mini tournament or something with 4 teams. I don't even pay attention. It's so bad.
No, I like to watch the skills challenge. I don't even love the dunk contest as much. Last year was okay. Last year was a little bit better. But better than garbage is still garbage, right? But I like the skills challenge. I just miss a lot of the stuff that they used to do. And now even in the games, it's like 247 to like 246. Like they just don't play defense. They just let them shoot.
It's like it used to be like the old Pro Bowl.
Oh, right.
It was awful too.
Well, it's flag football.
Yeah. MLB is the only one that's actually kind of watchable.
Well, and MLB used to mean something. It doesn't anymore. It used to mean who got home field advantage.
Right. And now because obviously they play interleague so much more, it's not such a situation. It's not a situation where you've never played the other, the American League, not playing the other league. So now they don't need that. Although, obviously it was nice because then you didn't have a tie like in that one All-Star game, which was absolutely ridiculous.
This isn't hockey.
But now what is this? It's gone to the NHL. Yeah, the NHL style of the small teams, and that's exactly right. I don't know. We'll see. I used to love the 3-point shootout.
Me too.
And that was great. And watching Mark Price win it a couple of times was fantastic.
Kyrie won it when the year before we won it. Kyrie won, and they argued that was the year that LeBron and Kyrie played together, and they, that's when they kind of got to know each other, and then LeBron came back. So
right, and I mean, let's see. Wait, Jason Capono, former Cleveland Cavalier, also won it. Let's not forget Jason Capono.
I mean, the great Jason Capono. But let me ask you this. How do we remember this stuff? And I forgot to get gas on the way home. I'm like, shoot.
Hey, who needs gas? I'm just going to coast in.
There's only so many penguins that fit on the iceberg. Some of them have to fall off.
It was cold out. I didn't want to.
I can appreciate it. I can appreciate it. Okay, let us do this. Let us take a brief break here, a commercial break, so we can get a few words in from our sponsors. And then when we come back, we will bring Jacob onto the program, and we are going to move along to the crappy Browns. Okay, you are watching Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land, a Fanatical Elves Network program on the Fans First Sports Network. And welcome back, everybody, to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land. Ethan Greenberg here, along with me is Mike Rasinski, Heather, and joining us now, our dog pound expert is Jacob. Jacob, looks like you just woke. Oh no, just woke up. Thank you very much for joining in. So we talked about the good team in town, and now we're going to talk about the crap show. Let's talk about the crap show that is the Cleveland Browns. Anybody surprised? And what are the thoughts about Tommy Rees getting promoted from the tight ends coach to the offensive coordinator position? I don't know. Jacob, since you just joined in, why don't you let us know?
I mean, the tight ends, the Njoku, Akins, and even Whiteheart, they had, I think, a good season comparatively to the rest of the team. So
you got that going for you, right?
Yeah.
Wait, are we going international? We've not only got the UK, we've got someone in Japan. This is amazing. I'm loving the international flair here. This is fantastic. So Tommy Rees becomes the offensive coordinator. Mike or Heather, what were your initial thoughts when they decided to go that route? We talked about the new offensive line coach that we brought in, Bloomgren. And now we've got Tommy Rees, and this is his first stint as an OC in the NFL, but he has been an OC in college, Notre Dame, and most recently in 2023 at Alabama with, he might know a quarterback that we could be interested in it. So what do you think, guys?
Well, to me, I think it's a good hire. You hear about, I don't think anybody was really paying attention to the tight ends coach as we were going through the football season this year. So it's kind of hard to get a read on him. But when you read up on him, read the articles about him, other teams were interested in him. You heard Vrabel might bring him to New England if we didn't hire him. And he was the OC at college programs that most mimic pro programs. So he's got that track record as well. I was kind of interested in the Clint Kubiak rumors as well. But I'm okay with this Tommy Reese hire. I'm real curious to see how it's going to go, but it cannot go any worse than this year. So there's only one way to go, literally.
Right. And I'm fine with it, just for the simple fact, to me, it reaffirmed the fact that Stefanski is going to take over play calling again. So, I mean, I'm fine with it. You promote from within, and I'm sure the guys seem to like him. I don't know what the cohesiveness in that locker room is because of all of the things that we read now. But, I don't think it's a bad move. Do I think that it's going to solve our issues?
No. Well, now wait a second though. Okay, so first of all, Mike, it seems like a cheap ass move by the Habs to save money. I don't know that there's.
I don't see it that way.
Yeah, money really isn't the issue here.
No.
But I like how Mike referred to this as the Bumson move. What did you call him, Jacob? Defraud Watson.
Defraud.
No, I never said that. I called Aaron Rodgers Aaron Frogers.
Oh, but it could be Defraud Watson. No?
Defraud Watson is good. Yeah. Yeah.
So okay, so I like the move, and as you mentioned, Heather, would we all kind of agree, and I think everybody's reporting it, that in all likelihood this means the play calling is going to go, A, it's going to go back to Stefanski calling the plays, and B, we're likely going to be returning to the prior quote-unquote Stefanski offense. What does everybody think about that? Jacob?
I think it's not going to be the exact Stefanski offense. There's obviously going to be some evolutions to more modernize it, which is what they are trying to do, but they went too far in the other direction by completely changing it.
I don't know, Heather, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're going to, but I also think that, again, like what we had talked about earlier with Cavs and coaching and even brought Notre Dame, you don't change your identity. You don't change what you think works. And Stefanski does have, I'm not on the fire Stefanski wagon, but I will tell you that the guy's got control issues. And you have to get to that level, right? You have to. So I don't think that I don't think we're going to see that big of a change because it worked when you had a functional quarterback under center. So I don't think that there's reason to change as long as we don't have Defraud Watson under center, which he's not now, obviously. As long as you have someone who is semi-capable.
Yeah.
I think even with Jameis Winston, I think even if he had a year under his belt with him, I think he would have been fine. Because he showed flashes of brilliance that we never saw with Watson. We never saw flashes of brilliance. You'd see one explosive play from him, and the lovers would be like, "See, he's back." No, he had one good play. Congratulations. I want to see consistency.
And I think if you have Kevin Stefanski call the plays, or even Reese, I don't know, because I don't know what kind of plays he would call. It's really incumbent you get the right quarterback then, whether that's off of who do you get now? Do you change your draft strategy because maybe you don't have the style of quarterback? Maybe you don't want their Shedeur Sanders because he is more of scrambling quarterback than the under center quarterback that Stefanski likes. Do you now go after like a Kirk Cousins, or do you just draft some other quarterback that fits his style? So I'm glad they made the decision now, and they're talking about it now because it's really going to impact what they do at the draft, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Yes. I think that, okay, so just answer some questions. So opposed to drafting a running back high in the draft this year and with all the needs that the Browns have, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I don't, if you're talking about, I think there are so many great running backs you can get later in the draft. And if you can't create a hole and you can't run a play action a la Defraud Watson, it's not going to matter anyway. But
right. And every year the draft is loaded with running backs anyway. So you sacrifice, early this year. We'll be fine. We don't need to draft a running back.
Right.
Early.
Exactly. So so before we get to the, Mike, you did some research on the mock drafts, and, we want to know, trade for Kirk Cousins, cut Defraud, do what the Denver Broncos did, eat the, I thought that said eat, eat crap, but it says eat the dollars. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Either way, it's same difference.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not a matter of getting rid of Watson's injury is taking care of itself.
Correct.
Okay.
The problem has solved itself.
Exactly. And so we can't, his cap number is way more than Russell Wilson. So you can't just cut him. It's not that simple. There's this insurance policy. There's all this stuff going on around that. But I think the fact he's injured, you can kind of put him out of sight, out of mind. We know we're moving on. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that we are moving on, unless you are delusional that the Browns are moving on. The question is, who do we bring in? Who's available? Is it a Kirk Cousins? Is it an Aaron Rodgers? Is it Danny Two Pennies? Is it now? Hey, we can get Sam Darnold. He only self-destructed in the most important games of the year. He's great. He turned back into a pumpkin. A lot of these things, and then the question is, we're gonna draft somebody. The question is, where do we like it? The questions about Ward and Sanders. Sanders certainly has played under his dad. He does operate well out of the pocket. Ward, I've heard criticism of everybody. There's no guarantee. There is no Peyton Manning. There is no Andrew Luck or whomever at their peak and their prime. You're going to take somebody with some warts, some problems there. I don't know. Mike, what did you find out when you looked through some of the mock drafts?
Yeah, so I just picked 4 mock drafts from reputable sources, so none of these crazy fringe websites out there. And it was very interesting this week because none of them were the same, and they had some interesting picks, I'll say. So I'll just go through them real quick, and I'd love to get your take. So The Athletic had Ward going number 1, had the Browns drafting Abdul Carter, an edge from Penn State, and Hunter going 3. You had CBS Sports, Ward number 1, Milroe number 2 to the Browns, and then Will Campbell, the offensive tackle, number 3. Sporting News had Hunter number 1. The Browns were getting, I'm probably pronouncing this
McMillan.
wrong.
We'll
just say McMillan, a wide receiver. And then Sanders at number 3. And NBC Sports had Ward number 1, Hunter number 2 to the Browns, and Sanders number 3. So none of them were consistent. We got some new names thrown out there that don't seem like they make a whole lot of sense.
You were referencing?
Yeah, what about
the wide receiver you're referencing? I'm pretty sure his name is Tetaroya McMillan.
Yeah, I think
that's why we have it on the show.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have been able to pronounce that.
Here are my thoughts. No on Abdul Carter. Are these people on drugs? They think the Texans are going to take Travis Hunter and not a quarterback. They have no quarterback. They've got Captain Mayonnaise.
You mean
Will
Titans?
Or whatever. You know who I mean? No, the Titans have no quarterback. They need a quarterback. This is their shot to take a quarterback at number 1, whomever they choose. We have seen the Browns. Hey, you know what? We have a top pick. Let's take Courtney Brown, Penn State. Oh yeah, how'd that work out? Not everybody is Myles Garrett, and we need a quarterback who touches the ball every play on offense.
It was like when the Cavs drafted Anthony Bennett.
Oh God, no. No. I think Hunter is probably maybe is in that 2-3 range. I think if Hunter went second, it wouldn't be to the Browns.
I just don't need him.
So now you're talking. That trade down scenario, as long as you remain within like the top 8, I think would be okay, and you could still get one of those top 3 quarterbacks.
Well, because the quarterback class is weak this year. It just is. I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying that they're not going to maybe be okay, but none of them. Nobody saw what's his face from Washington, Jaden. No one saw him going in and making an immediate impact, but maybe they'll surprise us. But just from what I've seen, and I've watched a lot of college football this year, and I don't see any of the quarterbacks who consistently stayed here and moved up. You saw a lot of them here and then, especially in the playoffs.
Right.
So I don't know.
So Heather, what do you want to? Who do you want to see them draft at number 2 then, or do you want to see them?
We need somebody on the line. We need an offensive line. Like or an edge, maybe an edge pass rusher. I don't know, but we don't need a quarterback right now. excuse me, I think you're going to be able to get one late. So I think that we need to plug some big time gaps on the line, because what good is a quarterback if he's going to be running for his life?
Right. So, Brownie, thank you for the Justin Fields. Would he be a fit in a Stefanski offense? I'm going to say not exactly. He's not great. And the fact that he got benched for washed up Russell Wilson kind of says something, unfortunately. Jacob, who do you want at number 2? Which, if it's not, would you want a quarterback? B, if you don't want a quarterback, what do you want? What would you do it to?
Quarterback. It has to be.
Okay, you're on the has to be a quarterback. All right, which one? If you had to choose, let's say, okay, so would you take either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Because they're rated the top 2.
Yeah, I would take either.
Okay, now is there anybody that you think that we could get later, such as a Jalen Milroe in the second round, or a Jackson Butt Dart, or I'm just throwing out names here, people that are going to be out there. People are going to talk about Will Howard. People are going to talk about Kyle McCord. People are going to, those are all statues. Quinn Ewers decided after his disastrous performance this year that, hey, I don't want to stay at Texas where I can sit on the bench behind Arch Manning. I want to go to the NFL where I can sit on the bench. It's a good trade. Which if we didn't take, would it be a disaster if the Browns didn't select at number 2, either A, traded down, or B, drafted one, maybe at the top of the second round? What do you think, Jacob, and any other thoughts here?
See, so it depends. I think you can get away with a Jalen Milroe in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that's a good, I mean, how beneficial would it be, guys, if a coach who's familiar with him, Tommy Rees, in 2023, were to work with him again?
Or does Tommy Rees say, I've seen him up close and personal, and he's not going to fit this offense too? So we could have that insight as well, which I think would be interesting. I mean, you either draft for need, or you draft best player available, but it's not equal either. If your need is at the most important position, like quarterback, maybe you do have to reach. But can you reach at, say, a number 10 or something and trade down and still plug that need while getting extra draft picks? I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think you kind of have to go with your drafting for need over best available player when your need is so great that it's the quarterback that we've missed on so much.
Do you think with the draft class this year that would plug our need? Because I just don't see the quarterback class strong enough to plug that need. I'm not high up on either one. I'm not saying they're not good, especially Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is out for me, I would pick a Sanders over a Ward. I would pick a Milroe over a Cam Ward.
And there it is. So two things. One is, first of all, when's the last time we had a dynamic runner quarterback? Never. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What year is it?
Yeah. I mean, Bernie Kosar, he was a hell of a runner. Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. No joking. We haven't had a
we haven't.
quarterback. The closest we might, don't throw run. He was pretty solid, but DTR, not exactly the guy we need. But I think that you need, for Kevin's offense, you need someone who can sit back in the pocket, run the play action. And that brings me to the article from Jason Lloyd. Mike, you got a chance to read that. Tell me your biggest takeaways from that.
Okay, I've got 3. One has to do, and then I'll let you guys comment on them, but one is one of the quotes that I found very striking, and it's this. It says, "You have to bring Joe back. Somebody has to teach Deshaun the offense," one member of the organization said as the season neared its conclusion. "Joe picked it up faster in 30 days than Deshaun has in 2 years." Mm-hmm. That was striking to me, with just how unprepared it showed that he was, and how either unwilling or unable he was to actually pick up the offense. And if they didn't know that, they didn't do their homework before making this horrible trade, then that's on them. All right, that was number one. Number two, Callahan may have stayed if Van Pelt wasn't fired. I think that was a huge loss. Now, Van Pelt's back on the market, so maybe we can rehire him and Callahan will come back. You never know. And then the third was the quote, Watson's EPA per drop back with the Browns was negative 0.19, which according to True Media ranks 197th out of 201 NFL quarterbacks since 2000, which just highlights to me how awful, in one sentence, that trade was.
Yeah,
We're speechless. No, there's nothing
I
to
mean,
even
who's
say.
underneath him on that list? Like, you got is
How
Jamarcus
bad are
Russell,
you?
was he before 2000? Or was he
I'll have to
was he
look at
after 2000?
Jamarcus Russell. They said one thing I do remember, all of them were on their rookie contracts except for Deshaun.
Yes. I remember seeing some things about that. I don't know this exact the exact stat, but so from other things I've read and heard from Jason Lloyd is that Stefanski, Barry, and Haslam met with Deshaun in Deshaun's attorney or lawyer agent's office, right? And so Stefanski's sitting there with him with like a tablet and talking about the plays. Now, first of all, Deshaun's asked, and he's showing him all these things that they can do in Kevin's offense and so on and so forth. And Deshaun asked him, well, what can I do better? And he said, oh, well, you can work on the play action, the ball fake. And he's like, oh yeah, sound like my high school coach. Like, the dude,
you've been told this before, and
no, he basically he was able to get by with other attributes in his game. And there were stories out there, and this is not in Jason's article. I could have sworn I've heard things talking about Bill O'Brien basically telling in Houston when he was his most successful was telling him where to throw the stupid ball. I don't know how you do it, but apparently he was. And it sounds to me like the guy he never really wanted to do Kevin's system. And this was a last ditched effort this season. That's why we had to Bill Callahan saw the writing on the wall. We had to get rid of AVP just to fit this clown. This guy stunk. I think the other thing that they talked about in the article was the fact that while, this season, there were times they were going over plays and film and he wouldn't criticize Watson. As soon as Watson was out of the room after the injury, then they started going back to, hey, this is Jameis Winston comes in and Kevin's on that. That creates issues with me. Does that say to you guys, A, Kevin's a bad leader for not criticizing his best player, or B, that Deshaun Watson is a fragile-minded, weak individual that couldn't take criticism?
I think it says both. It says both, absolutely. And I fault them both for that, actually. And it was striking, none of the players in this article went on record, nor would I expect them to. But the fact that they're willing to talk to a media member now about how sick they were of all this preferential treatment for Deshaun and how sick they were of the coaches allowing this to happen says a lot. And I hope that Stefanski gets this feedback and doesn't let this happen again, because, he's still a young coach. He has room to grow, and he's not perfect either. So I'm hoping it makes him better as well. But, lesson learned, you cannot operate a team that way.
No,
No, I do think it shows less about what kind of leader Kevin Stefanski is, though, because honestly, what purpose would it have served anybody in that locker room to trash Watson? Like, it wouldn't have served any purpose. Maybe he did it privately. Maybe he said it to the other coaches, like, hey, this guy is a joke and I wish he was off the team, but there's nothing I can do about it. I have the team that I have, and I have to. We're already, getting dumped on by the media. We're already getting dumped on by player or by fans, by everybody. So I have to do what I have to do to try to keep this morale up. So what good would it have done for him to badmouth? I think that Deshaun was fragile, and I think that it's very hard to deal with fragile egos like that sometimes, and it's hard to deal with someone who can't take constructive criticism on a much lower scale, like in my line of work. So to have to do it on somebody who is getting paid, $712 million, it's a lot harder. And I've heard criticism of Stefanski for not criticizing him in the media. that's just absolute stupidity. You can't do that. You can't feed that negativity. So even if it's fake, you have to try to get some semblance of, okay, it's a crappy hand, but this is the hand that we're dealt with. So let's make the best of it.
Right. I mean, he kind of got stuck with his hand.
Yeah.
And there was some conversation on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show with Jason. His opinion was that maybe Barry hatched the idea, and then at some point after Barry kind of got in, this is again, he said, this is my opinion, blah, that at some point Barry said, hey, enough. This is enough. But Jimmy said, I don't care. Do what you have to do. How many ever picks, whatever it is. And it's just a mess. And I'm glad that it appears that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And as here's my last question on this, and then we're going to go to the picks for the week, guys.
I want to fill in on the last question you have.
Please. I am sorry. How dare I?
I do think that Kevin was just trying to save his job, because if he trashed mouth Watson, and if Watson had the fragile ego, Watson would have been complaining, and then it would have been a whole thing that I think we would have heard about during the season at some point if it did happen. So I think Kevin was really just trying to save his job.
He was balancing. It was a fine line that he had to balance, right? I mean,
yeah, and I have one more thing to say too about this whole trade. And since we're talking about like leadership and leadership styles with Stefanski, I just can't believe, to me, what it looks like, how bad of a leader Haslam is. Whether you had to have had some part in making this trade happen.
Yep.
And if you're not willing to take the blame, knowing how bad this trade has fractured the fan base, and you can't take that, maybe you have the shallow ego. Protect your coach and your GM if you believe in them and say, yeah, my bad. I'm the one that made this happen. We'll learn from it. We won't let it happen again. But to just stay silent and let the criticism flow to your coach and your GM, to me, that shows bad leadership on his part.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's where it's at, because it does start at the top. And I think everybody here, in our careers, we've been leaders. I've taken the fall for my team sometimes, because sometimes you just do that. And sometimes you don't want them to, it was my bad. I should have had more oversight. I should have done X, Y, and Z differently. It's not going to happen again. And people love a redemption story. They love an apology. They love it when you admit that you're wrong and you eat it. And I think the fans would have been like, okay,
yeah,
you know what?
Guess what?
He acknowledged.
And Haslam can't get fired, so it would have been fine.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, bottom line, do we think that this group can develop a franchise quarterback? Jacob, we'll go to you first.
I think they have the potential.
Okay.
If they just find a guy who they really believe in, and who they can build in, like who they can fit into their offense really well, they can.
All right. And Heather, what about you?
Not with this draft class, no.
Okay. And no, and to the answer from Big E Bronco, he's asking about Mike Shanahan, RG3, Kirk Cousins, and no, other than Mr. Jacob, we are all old enough to have witnessed and remembered that. Mike, what are your thoughts about the possibility of the Browns, whomever they draft, can they actually develop this quarterback?
So I think they can. I mean, Stefanski has proven that he can work with a certain type of quarterback, but Stefanski has also proven that he can ruin a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield comes to mind, and just the decisions he made to, play him when he was hurt, and the fracturing of the locker room and the fan base with some of the decisions he made, at the point. So yes, he can, but he also has shown that he can also ruin a quarterback. So I don't know. Is there a maybe?
No, it's not black and white. There's a part of it that's in a gray area, because Mike, as you talk about, and as much as you might say he kind of messed up Baker Mayfield, he also had him have his best season from an interception to touchdown ratio in the first year that he was here. And then Baker went a little bit rogue, and then he tried to be Captain Tough Guy with, I'm telling the doctors and I'm telling the coaching staff I'm fine, when he really wasn't. And that's also on the coaches and the staff to say, hey, Jackalope, sit down. So it was a mess. And I think that he can, but we need to support him. Let's get in his offense. He's done it multiple times with middle of the road quarterbacks. So I think we can go with that, and there is a possibility there. So let's go here to our game picks for the divisional playoff round. All right. So, Heather, we got your picks here, but the overall record last week, I was the loser at 3-3. Jacob, Mike, you both went 4-2. I maintain my 2-game lead over Jacob. Mike, you're still good. You are still good.
I'm just hoping Jacob catches you. I have no chance.
It's like, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Take him down. Take him down.
All right, let's go to the divisional playoff weekend here. All right. So we've got a rematch of last year's playoffs. They played this game earlier, a game in December. Houston at Kansas City. Washington is at Detroit. Rams an emotional victory over the Vikings, and the Ravens at the Bills. That's the game. I mean, I think they're all potentially great matchups.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our picks here, and let's talk about just real quick here what our thoughts are. And to nobody's surprise,
this is very
we all
There's
picked
no
the 1 and 2
catching.
seeds.
no one had faith in the rat turds.
No.
no, I
All
don't.
right, can I real time? I'm going to change my pick to Washington, just so one
All
of us can be different.
Do you want to real time change your pick? I will mark it in the book. Mike, are you sure?
I'm sure. I'm going Washington.
Said
at
it
the upset.
live. He said it
Yeah.
live.
So what you're saying, Mike, is that in your opinion,
Do it live.
That's right.
Do it live.
That's right.
okay, Bill. All right, so you're going to change it to Washington. All right, I will make the official change in the book here. I am the bookkeeper. Guys, so is there any doubt? I mean, Kansas City has to be the favorite, right? You know,
By a mile.
I think Houston is pretty banged up.
Yeah, that game will be a blowout.
Okay, so Mike, if you go with Washington, what would be your case for why the Commandos can win?
That the Detroit's defense is still beat up. They're still recovering. They have a bad game, and Jaden Daniels just goes off.
That's a bold prediction. You are A1 bold spicy here.
So high scoring game, and the Commanders win by like a last second doink field goal.
But
Oh,
that's
no.
fair, though. Okay, we're calling history, but that's fair though, because Detroit they're hurt. They're injured. So
Okay,
Yeah.
so all right. None of us went with the Rams in this game again at Philadelphia. Do we really think Philadelphia is that good?
Yeah, I think
Two
the
words.
offensively, Jalen Hurts can have a good day, and then Saquon's he's really good. And
that's
then
it. I was
they
gonna
also
say two
have,
words: Saquon Barkley.
yeah, and then we also have an incredible. They also have an incredible defense, secondary mainly. But so they are a good team, and especially the Rams been inconsistent all year. I think they can still play well, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Right. Yeah, I can see you there. And I mean, heck, we've got Philadelphia. We got fans losing their job because they're calling opposing team fans the C word, and they get videotaped. And that's just great. That's just
Philly fans are terrifying. I don't know what anybody expected.
I know. And I mean, I'm going to go. I mean, obviously you see my picks here. I thought about the Rams. I thought they're on an emotional roller coaster, everything they're doing. And I feel like Nick Sirianni's a crybaby. I feel like he's a crybaby, but I didn't feel like he was a big enough crybaby for me to go against them this week. The Rat Turds at the Bills, it's expected to be frigid there. Sunday night football going to cap off the weekend. Now, I think all as Browns fans, we have to root against the Ratbirds, but we don't think Lamar Poopy Pants, stomach ache at halftime is going to be able to pull one out.
Oh, I think he can pull it out. I think we're all just hoping the Bills win this game.
Right. I picked with my heart on that one.
I picked with both hatred for the Ravens and belief in the Bills.
Oh, that is
wow. Okay. Nothing else needs to be said.
I think you just nailed it.
I do too. I do too. You are wise beyond you've seen some things. You've lived.
I've seen some things. And Mike comments that, have you guys seen the Ratbirds are slight favorites? No, I hadn't seen that.
No. And this is also in Orchard Park. So
Right, exactly. I think that they can neutralize the running game of Lamar potentially. I mean,
they have to force Lamar to throw more times than the Ravens want him to.
right,
Just
exactly.
hoping that the combination of Lamar being a better runner than passer, and also Zay Flowers being injured, and there's not 100% sure that he can play. And if he doesn't play, and the Buffalo's able to contain the run, think the Ravens are in trouble.
I couldn't, as you said, Heather, I couldn't say it any better myself. That is a very succinct and good argument as to why the Ratbirds will be flying home to Baltimore crying and eating crab cakes. All right. So those are our picks here for the divisional round of the playoffs. And I know we're kind of running late here, so I wanted to just cover, and I think I'm going to go with it kind of as quickly as possible here so that everybody can get to watching the Cavs. Buckeyes National Championship taking on the Irish, and just to get us in the spirit, let's hear from the Buckeyes band, the marching band. I'm fired up. I got goosebumps.
Yep.
Ready to run through a wall.
Yep.
Let's go.
I got goosebumps, guys. I mean, Jacob, you're the youngest of us here. I mean, what did you think of the performance against Texas and how that ended, and how freaking exciting was it?
It was incredible. That's gonna be if we can beat Notre Dame, which I'm very, very confident in. That Jack Sawyer play is going to be just in history, Buckeye lore for years, forever.
Put the statue up now. Like if we win, put the statue up now.
Yep.
Exactly. Do you think, guys, that Lou Holtz talking trash at age a bazillion will have any effect? Will Ryan Day,
call him out
in the post-game speech?
Yeah, no. Lou Holtz, the Kent State grad, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, we may stink on the field, but we sure do know how to produce coaches.
That's right. Nick Saban. We got a few. But is anybody worried that Ohio State's going to be too overconfident?
No.
Just almost like the Michigan game, because everybody's predicting them to win this pretty big.
No,
I think they're 9-point favorites right now.
I'm going to agree with you, Heather. I don't think they're overconfident. I think losing that game to Michigan was very humbling. It made them rethink their game plan. Notre Dame, I read something earlier. One of their defensive backs is talking about playing man-to-man. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because they had to try and hold Jeremiah Smith to even contain him, and then that left Carnell Tate open. Play man-to-man. Yeah. Good luck. Because if they don't get pressure, if they're not getting pressure on Will Howard, Smith is going to be open by like 10 yards. And I know that Notre Dame has a very good secondary. They have very good safeties.
They absolutely do.
You can't cover Tate, Emeka, and Jeremiah.
Exactly. So is everybody here, do we like, not with our hearts, because we all know in our hearts we want the Buckeyes to win. Are we all feeling like the Buckeyes should be able to win this game?
100%.
Yeah, I like that you said that we're feeling that they should. Do I ever feel like we are going to? No, I'm going to be a nervous wreck, and I'm probably going to have to be medicated on something. I don't know. But I feel like we should win. Yes. Exactly.
There it is. I don't think OSU is overconfident at all like they were against Florida in the national title. Oh,
yeah.
Ted Ginn returns into the house, and it was over after that. That was ridiculous. I watched that.
I will never forget that. Ted Ginn, he takes it, and we're like, we're going to win. And then all of a sudden they're like, no.
All right. So with that, we're gonna do a little OH.
IO.
Yeah, I kind of messed that up. My bad. No.
I got you.
There's actually 4 of us on the screen. We each could have taken a letter.
Oh, yeah.
Choreography is not my
we'll
Start
practice
the
for next
whole
time.
podcast over again.
Exactly. And I don't know who this person is, but they are saying, "Ha ha, Heather, you got a fan."
Creeping death, yikes on bikes.
Ew.
Hey now. All right. Yeah,
Sheesh McGeesh.
exactly. All right. And with that, folks, I think it is time to tell everybody what has us going nuclear. Jacob, schoolwork? Is there anything that has you going nuclear? If not, that's okay. I thought I'd ask.
I know. My school administrator at lunch every day is like, "Go Notre Dame," and I'm like,
Go where?
poor soul, poor soul. It's like, nope, that's not.
That's it. We are
Apparently-
giving you some Ohio State championship gear after they win, and you are going to shove it in his face. That will never happen. We will not have this.
Not in my house.
Now, all right, Heather, what has you going nuclear?
I have a couple of things. I have some things at work that are making me go nuclear a little bit. It's been a little bit stressful. And this is going to be a little bit more of a lighthearted going nuclear. I'm very sad that college football season is over. It's done. And it's my favorite time of the year. I'm so glad I have the Cavs. I'm so glad that the NFL playoffs are going on, but I'm going nuclear about that a little bit. And let me just do a PSA. I don't work for Ohio State. I don't control anything that Ohio State does. So if you hate them, I don't care. Don't message me. Don't message me hateful things. I don't care.
Right.
So be nice. Be nice.
Heather, tell everybody where they can find you, where all of your wonderful programming is.
Yeah, you can find me on here at Love Buckeyes. If you're not following me on X, follow me at your own peril because I do post a lot. I'm a little excessive, but you can find me, bougiesports.net. Give them a look, and then you can follow us on Bougie Sports on YouTube. Give us a subscribe. I do my college football podcast weekly, aptly named College Football with Heather. So check us out. Check me out on my personal page. I will post when I'm doing my podcast. So thank you.
Yes, we are looking
And
forward.
Ethan, you've been on it multiple times.
We got a Sunday morning planned.
We have a Sunday. We're doing one Sunday morning, you guys. So we're going to do a little bit of a preview. So join us Sunday morning.
We'll have more in-depth Buckeye Notre Dame national title coverage. Mike, what has you going nuclear?
This is probably an old man gripe, but why does this game have to be on a Monday night? Just like, why does Super Bowl Sunday have to be on a Sunday? Saturday would be perfectly fine. Super Bowl Saturday sounds good. How about National Championship Friday? There's no NFL games on a Friday. It'd be great. We can all stay up, sleep in on Saturday. So that's what has me going nuclear.
That's a really good nuclear. Yeah, I like that.
It is. It does. All right. So what has me going nuclear this week, guys, is the fact that apparently everybody else is smarter than the people who are journalists and write for a living. I read that Jason Lloyd article, and I cannot tell you how many people were commenting, "Hey, where are the sources? He says he don't name the sources." Hey, look, dummy, you know nothing about journalism. You have to have integrity. The New York Times, his bosses are reading through this. They're not going to let him put out some kind of load of garbage like the other crap on the internet from all these other garbage websites with a bunch of non-source stories. He has the sources. You have to protect your sources in order to have the integrity and the trust of people to confide in you and talk to you. I know not everybody likes what Jason has to write because he will. As I saw, I think Ben Axelrod would, an empty the notebook story. He did it at the end of the Cavs season. He did it at the end of the Brown season. It's just what it is. I know you may not like him, and I know you may not like other writers and journalists, but this is how it actually works. You can't just say, I talked to this person. He told me this other guy's a real piece of crap. Nah, that's not going to happen. So the sooner people get a clue and realize that this is a very good journalist, and so are a lot of these other people, and to respect the work they do, you're going to just be, out of luck. And that, folks, is what has me going nuclear. So I want to thank Heather. I want to thank Jacob and Mike, as usual, everybody for being here. Thank all of our folks that support us, all the sponsors, the Fanatical Elves Network, Fans First Sports Network, for letting us be on board with you. And so until next time, you've been watching Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land.